Teen candidates night. Sorry, Queen, we're running, so you're done. You can show up tomorrow morning. We'll let you finish it up. Okay. Just want to let you know. Normally we would be running this with the Onset Protective League, but they're unable to take part in it this year. So we decided we're going to go ahead on and do it, and try to keep up the tradition that they have, which is a nice, peaceable meeting. Any questions that are asked from the floor will be for the job and not against the person. Okay? You'll have about 5 minutes per person to introduce yourself, talk about yourself, why you want to do this thing that you're signing up to do. And then we'll have some questions. Queen will be giving you some questions. And if the audience has questions, we could go that way. But we'll see what happens. We want to thank our friends at Salerno's Function Hall who donated the space to us. So if you want to think about it, this is an underwriting project. So, which is one of the things that we can do as a TV station. We can't do advertisements, but we can take underwriting. So if you want to see a cooking show, then you can donate stuff to have a cooking show. So that's how underwriting works. It's really cool. But yeah, so again, Salerno's Function Hall, they let us have it for the second time this year free of charge because they care what happens in this town. So, and that's about all I got. Queen, come on down and let us know who our first contestants are on.
Who is that candidate? Name that candidate.
And if we look like we're doing this sloppy and goofy, tough. That's just the way we roll. So.
Not really. Some of us are professional here, Steve.
Someone doesn't have to do it sticking wires together. I don't know.
Okay, so I think we should go with the order here, and we're going to start with the selectmen. So every.
Oh, no. We save them for last.
Okay.
Make them stew a little bit. But then again, you're in charge, so go ahead and do it.
All right. Because in honor of the first person who came in today, and that is, yes, Jennifer Bailey. So we're going to have the school committee come first. Please come, all the candidates.
Yeah, all the candidates for school committee, come on, have a seat.
You go right there. I'm going to sneak past you.
Okay, there's 4 seats. Figure it out.
Crying out loud.
Okay, how are you going to start this?
Okay, we're going to start with the. All right, so we have 4 candidates in front of us, and that is April Rossi, Jennifer Bailey, Mary Morgan, and Jeff Sweat. Mary Morgan, congratulations. You have won already, but you still have to answer these questions, okay? So basically today it's down to Jeff Sweat, Jennifer Bailey, and April Rossi for the open seat. 2-year open seat. So we're going to start with 3 general questions, and I think we could start with April Rossi.
Introduce themselves and talk about why they're doing this?
That's my
Craziness?
question.
That was the question?
Oh, we're going to start with the 3 basic questions, and that is tell us about yourself, why you're running, and what are your goals if elected.
Okay, we're
That's like
taking
one
this.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, use the microphone, please.
Okay.
That's mainly for the folks at home.
Okay. My name is April Rossi. I am running for the 2-year school committee seat, as Queen and Steve both introduced. I have been a Wareham resident for about 10 years. I have a son who is in the 8th grade at Wareham High School. I started in Wareham on the Deacon's Elementary PTA. I was a executive board member there, and was then on the Wareham Elementary PTA and helped with the merge between Deacon's and Minot for both PTAs. I do volunteer work with the Boys and Girls Club and have for several years, chaperoning events, doing clinics for young girls, teaching them how to braid, how to bracelet make. I have been a board member of the Wareham Tigers for the past 6 years, the last 2 years as the cheer president and a cheerleading coach for the last 6 years, dealing with everywhere from sideline cheer to competition cheer from every angle of the town. I am now on also the high school, or the middle high school, and now it's just the Wareham Schools PTA. Again, it's another set of merging and changing that I've had to go through with different organizations in town. And I also work in onset at the Taradine Studio as a stylist, and I'm a substitute teacher as needed at Wareham Middle School. So in the past 10 years, I've seen my son has gone from DECUS to doing 1 year at Minot when the schools split, to then being the first year of 5th graders at the middle school, and now he's the first class of 8th graders at the high school. As a sub, I've seen a lot of good. We have some amazing educators. I have a lot of great teachers, and I've also seen some areas that definitely need some improvement, and there's some opportunities, and heard from a lot of friends and teachers, both friends and teachers rather, on where things definitely need to be addressed. We do have a lot of wonderful opportunities, a lot of great programs, and some early interventions that are newly implemented in the lower grades, and a lot of accelerated programs at the high school, especially with the IB program, with dual enrollment, with the AP classes. It's just, I feel that there is a gap in that middle of the road, that average student, that really needs to be addressed and not forgotten. And I'm running because I want to help things move along and change, because I believe in the school system, and my son has done well here, and I'd like other students to be able to continue to have those opportunities. Your turn.
Thank you very much, April Rossi. All right, yeah, something that I didn't say is that we are giving everybody 5 minutes. You did well, 4 minutes. Okay.
I talk fast.
So Jennifer Bailey, same questions to you, and that is, tell us a bit about yourself. Why are you running? And if elected, what do you hope to accomplish?
Sure. So my name is Jennifer Bailey. I moved to Wareham in 2010 when I bought the house that my grandfather actually built. I visited here as a child in the summertime. My grandfather was a shop coordinator at Upper Cape for many years. I think students actually built my house, which has had its good points and its bad points. So I've had the idea of running for school committee sort of in the back of my head for quite a while, and the timing was just never right. Shortly after we moved to Wareham, my husband joined the finance committee and served on the finance committee for several years, and through his experience there, I learned a lot about the town, and I saw the value of contributing to the town through a board like that. So he recently has stepped down from the finance committee, and with the opening available now from this board, it really seemed like it was the time for me to take my turn and to step up and to serve my town in the way that matches my skill set. So I am a full-time speech-language pathologist in a school setting. I've been a licensed Massachusetts teacher for over 8 years, so I really am very familiar with Board of Ed regulations. I'm familiar with curriculum development. I'm familiar with working continuously with teachers, with families, with students, to see growth over time, to see how curriculum and policies affect students over time. And I think that's something I really can contribute to the board, is that perspective. I also possess some really strong critical thinking skills, such that I can evaluate a lot of the complex decisions that the board is tasked with making. I really look at a perspective of what's going to have the greatest good for the greatest number of students, really trying to do a cost-benefit analysis for all of these programs, because we don't live in a perfect world. We don't have unlimited resources, and there are tough decisions that have to be made, and I have the skills to make those decisions. Through my work in dealing with families and parents in the school setting, I've really developed a strong set of communication skills, so I am able to listen to the perspectives of others. Sorry. I'm not able to use microphones.
You're fine.
Okay, so can I keep talking? Okay, this doesn't count my 5 minutes, right?
No.
Okay. So I really have developed an ability to kind of listen to all sides of an argument or all sides of a debate, form my own opinions, and then concisely and effectively convey my opinions and my thoughts to other members of the board, other members of the community. And I think, again, that's a skill that I bring to the table here. So if elected, one of my priorities is definitely the social emotional considerations going on in the school. I think we hear this a lot. People are concerned about behavioral disruptions. People are concerned about bullying. People are concerned about kids acting out in class. There are programs in place to address that. Recently, staff has been hired, which I think is a great step in the right direction, but I think there's more we can do. I've actually started talking with the superintendent already about a specific program I have in mind that promotes some mindfulness activities. It promotes impulse control and teaches kids how to control their reactions and to stay in control of their own bodies and their own actions so that maybe over time we can mitigate some of these bullying and some of these acting out. I'm not naive enough to think this program will solve everything, but I think it's a start and I think it's a step in the right direction. Another priority I have is increasing some of the vocational opportunities we have for students, either for kids who don't get into Upper Cape or don't want to go fully to that kind of model for a school. How can we increase community partnerships? How can we bring in other skill-based kinds of learning opportunities for these students who otherwise might not have access? Part of why I'm interested in running for the school committee now is I really think education as a whole is going in a paradigm shift. I think we're changing from this, kind of kill and drill model where kids have to learn facts to when they have to apply facts. You have to know what to do with them. So I'm really interested in the project-based learning kinds of things. I'm interested in meaningful learning opportunities that are going to have relevance to what kids need to do later on in their lives. So that's my goal.
Great. Under 5 minutes. Fantastic.
Even with technical difficulties.
Yeah, let's keep it that way, people. So our next contestant, well, congratulations again, Mary Morgan.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. My name's Mary Morgan, and I'm running for a second term on the school committee. Just a little bit about myself. I've been a part of Onset all my life. As Jen's grandfather built a house here, my grandfather also built a house here in Onset that I now live in. And I consider myself very fortunate. My uncle would always say this is heaven on earth is Onset. So just a little bit about myself though, beyond my personal life, is that I actually worked in Wareham for 17 years in various positions. I started out as a special ed teacher in the middle school with the current principal, Tracy Cote, who is amazing, and she's doing a wonderful job now. I then went on to be a special ed teacher at the elementary level, and then became a reading specialist after that for grades K to 3. And then after that, I became an early childhood coordinator. So you can see my trend, I kept going down. I became an early childhood coordinator for about 6 years, and I was lucky enough to work at the East School when it was open. And then after that, I actually went to the district level and became an out-of-district coordinator, special ed program coordinator. And during that time, unfortunately, whether or not it was budget constraints or whether or not it was just decisions on how to use the money, I saw the special ed department being cut severely. So it being cut as in we lost our public day school, our alternative school was cut as well. We still have it, but it's minimal at best. And so when I saw all this happen, I decided to take a risk and thought that maybe I could have a better impact on being on the school committee. So I took a risk and I got a job in Rockland as an early childhood coordinator, out-of-district coordinator. I ran for a school committee and I won. And it's been an opening experience because it's not exactly what I expected. As Jeff will tell you, you don't have that power that you think that you're going to have, but you definitely have some influence. And I hope to continue that influence on the school committee in that I would like to see the alternative programs grow again. I'd like to see that public day school come back. I now work in Fall River as a special ed supervisor, and we have a very successful public day school. Not only are children able to stay in their own community, but it also saves them the district money. It right now costs on an average of about $100,000 to send a child out. That's because of tuition and transportation. So that I feel would be a huge savings for the district as well as beneficial for the children. The other thing that I would like to see more of is vocational programming at the high school. I feel badly for the students who apply to Upper Cape and they're not able to get in, and then they're stuck at the high school where they wanted to get a vocational skill. It would be really beneficial for students to be able to have that opportunity here right at Wareham High School to have that. So these are a few of my goals, and I hope that you will continue, the community will continue to support me in my second term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. So our last contestant? Candidate. Jeff Sweat.
Thank you, Queen. So first, a big thank you to WCTV for doing this. I hope lots of people are watching because it's always a very important event, and thank you to Queen for moderating and putting up with Steve. It's a really good thing that you're doing. Coming to Wareham was one of the best decisions that my wife and I made a long time ago. We've now been here since 1996. It was such a good decision. I realized it so quickly. I moved my parents here a year later, and they had, as my mother said, the best 10 years of their lives together in Onset. So it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to experience life in all its respects. I have ran for the school committee, frankly, because I developed late in my career a passion for education. In preparation for that, I actually spent 6 years, similar to Jen's husband, on the finance committee, which was great preparation for being on the school committee. My background is healthcare and a little bit of education. As many of you know, I actually spent 2 years as president of a charter school management company. I actually learned enough to realize I don't like charter schools, but it was still a very interesting experience, and one that helped me when I got on the school committee. I think the most important thing, I have to say one particular thing. If you'd like to know some more about me, there is a gem of a person in this town called Nicole Nault, who happens to be the daughter of one of our wonderful Deaconess School faculty, and she developed a website for me. If we're really lucky, she'll hang around Wareham and be one of its really fine citizens in the years to come. But it's GEOFF, that's my Australian mother, #4, sc.com. So thank you, Nicole. So I think the most important thing you should understand about the school committee itself, and Mary touched on it, back in the early 90s, the state consciously basically made a decision as part of education reform to greatly diminish the power of the school committee. And the reason was very simple. Too many school committee members around the Commonwealth were using their position for political reasons, for nepotistic reasons, for whatever their goals were. They wanted to make sure that for example, their nephew became a teacher in the school. The state basically said, nah, we don't like that anymore. So they gave virtually all of the power about what goes on in the schools to the superintendent and to the principals. I understand why they did that, but as Mary says, it's a little frustrating when you get on the school committee and realize that you really have only two things, substantial things to do if you want to be effective. And those two things are, A, be humble about your ability to actually get things done that the superintendent and principals have control over. I'll give you a great example. We all know about Bill Gates and his wife Melinda. They spent, let's say $100 million, it's probably a lot more than that, convinced that small high schools would produce great results. $100 million or more later, oops, we're wrong. They couldn't convince themselves, there was no data to support that assertion. They're lucky, they had billions of dollars, they could waste $100 million. So if you get on the school committee and like me have had lots of management experience in healthcare, which is in many ways very similar because it's highly regulated, very intensely service oriented, serves the public, and you have all these ideas, you pretty much realize, A, you don't really have the ability to get them done. You can suggest, you can persuade. If you have a great relationship with the management team, they might actually listen to you. But in the end, you may very well be wrong. Longer school day, right? Makes perfect sense, right? We ought to have longer school days.
We're down to 1 minute, Jeff.
Thank you. Maybe a longer school year. Maybe they ought to be in school all year round. Guess what? As logical as that may seem, there's no data to support that that's a good idea. So we need to be very humble when we get on the school committee. And finally, in my last 30 seconds, I will tell you the really important things that you can do are get out there with your regional and statewide representatives, leaders, governor, DESE, and make yourself heard, because Wareham's problems are not Weston's problems. And if you think that Weston isn't lobbying, you're wrong. So I have made a point over the last 12 years to advocate big time in my position as on the board of directors of the Association of School Committees for Wareham and what is good for Wareham. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so then I have 2 questions that you each going to answer in the same order. Oh, okay, well, we can start with Jeff, all right. And the questions are, what is your evaluation of the Wareham Public Schools? That's question 1. And how do you feel about a shared budget revenue for the town?
I think I understand what you mean by the second question, but I'll start with the first question.
Okay.
Okay. I am really happy to say that at this time, 2 or 3 years ago, I would have had a different answer and less positive. The reason is, at the elementary school level, I think they are starting to do wonderful things with literacy in particular. And as I learned a long time ago, kids initially learn to read, and then they read to learn. So if you haven't got the reading skills when you get to even 4th grade, much less middle school, you're going to be very frustrated and you're not going to do well. So I am extremely pleased at what is happening in our elementary school, at the Deacon School in particular. So that, in my mind, gets at least a B+, if not an A-. And the only reason I'm not giving it a higher grade is because it's a little early to evaluate it. But I'm really optimistic about what's happening. I share the frustration that some of my colleagues have expressed about the middle school. But the leadership change with Tracy Cote, I think, has made all the difference in the world. Some of you may remember, I don't regret saying it, but some people didn't like it, that I asked about what you do with an incorrigible child a year ago. I don't believe incorrigible children should disrupt the educational environment for the rest of the kids in a class. I am really pleased to say that many people in the middle school are now telling me that is a much less of a problem than it used to be. So it's a little early. It's only this year that they've really turned the corner. But once again, B+. You know, I think real things are really starting to change. And finally, the high school. I was at both the 8th grade orientation and the 7th grade orientation, primarily because I was there. I was asked to be there as the tennis coach, but I was there early so I could listen to the presentation made by the parents. I believe we have a curriculum, a syllabus of classes that is literally, and this is not hyperbole or exaggeration, second to none, certainly within the South Coast and maybe beyond. As one kid said at the last school committee meeting, if you want to get a great education in Wareham, you can. All you have to do is want to. We have IB, AP, more electives than you can shake a stick at, and we have great staff. I was wandering into the 7th grade orientation at about 5 o'clock, or maybe it was a coach's meeting, whatever, and Mr. Wilson was walking out, okay? That's the kind of dedication, and he's not unique. He's also a wonderful English teacher, but he's not unique in the dedication that the high school gives to our students. So they actually have been doing it a while, so I'm going to give them an A, because I think they deserve it, and they are showing that even as the goals get tougher, they managed to succeed. So it's a great story. The second question, I believe you're referring to the concept of whatever new revenue comes into the town, that we would get a set percentage of that revenue.
Absolutely.
Okay, if that's the question, then the answer is I will only be in favor of that if we get to the point of getting a fair share in the first place. Because I don't want to say yes to something until I think we're actually getting the right share. So we're getting closer, and if things that are about to happen at the state actually come to fruition, and we start to get more Chapter 70 money and more special ed money, which for the first time I'm or maybe even more than cautiously optimistic, then maybe I'll be able to go along with that, and it would make a smoother April town meeting. But for the moment, I'm going to be cautious about agreeing to the concept of revenue sharing.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mary Morgan.
So I don't want to repeat everything that Jeff just said, but I'll add to it as in that I definitely see that the school district is moving forward. Piggybacking on the literacy that's happening down at the elementary level, the early childhood. When I was a reading specialist, that was happening then as well, and it sort of just got cut back a little bit. And now I'm glad to see that we're focusing in on it again. However, I will say that I am a little concerned that they're not getting enough support in order to implement it effectively. I know from what I hear that their intervention groups are rather large, and in order for them to be effective, they really need to be small groups, and with intensive intervention, it really needs to be 2 to 3 students in order for it to be effective. And that brings in where the equity is across the district. Is there equity across the district where you see at the high school that you do have some classes where there are only 2 or 3 students? And in my opinion, that should be happening mainly down at the lower level. However, that being said, it's good that the literacy focus is happening down there, because that's where it's going to count the most. In order for children to access the IB program, they need to have those literacy skills in order to do that. The other thing I'm going to add on is that we do have an amazing staff, amazing teachers, amazing paraprofessionals, amazing principals, and I know that firsthand from working in the school system for 17 years. Many of those teachers are teachers that were there when I was there, which was just only 4 years ago. And the other thing that I would add about the evaluation of the school system, as Jeff had said, that the high school does have wonderful programs there, like the AP dual enrollment, but I would like to see vocational programming being added there. And going back to the child that may be having difficulty, again, I'm going to say that having that alternative program would be very beneficial to these students. There are students there that just need that smaller setting. They need just an alternative approach to be successful. And what else can I say great about the system? We have plenty of good things that are going on. But then going into the sharing the revenue, I agree definitely that I'd like to see us getting more money to support our students, but also I understand that there are other needs in the town. So it's a very difficult question to answer. I think that it may be just a year-by-year basis to see what is needed in each department to figure out how we can best serve the town. Did I answer the questions?
You did.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mary. Jennifer Bailey.
So I agree with everything that my colleagues have said about the things that are going well. The literacy program, the programs at the high school, the middle school, I won't repeat those, but I do think those are great. For me, what is standing out as something that's going really well in the district is, in reading through the school improvement plans, the goal focus has shifted now to an increased focus on student voice and student agency, as well as teacher empowerment. So there's a focus on recognizing that we have great teachers in the district and using them. So letting teachers observe each other, letting teachers teach each other, letting teachers have a more prominent role in making leadership decisions, which I think is huge, and I think that's a really positive step for the district, and I was really happy to see that as a published goal for the district and for the superintendent. Similarly, like I said earlier, with the paradigm shift in education and making things meaningful, the student voice is important. Kids care about what's interesting to them. They care about things that they get to choose rather than things that are forced upon them. Obviously, there are some things they have to just learn and they have to kind of just do it, but the more we can engage students based on what their interests are, what's important to them, I think the more meaningful and the more substantial their learning will be. So in terms of the budget question, I reserve the right to change my mind as I learn more. But at this point, I would be opposed to a set percentage of the budget sharing, partly because, well, primarily because it limits our flexibility, and I'm very wary of anything that would do that. So where the town pays the health insurance for the school employees, for example, say there's a year that health insurance premiums skyrocket and the town needs more money to cover that, but we only have this percentage, where does that come from? Alternatively, if there's a year that, say, student enrollment is much higher than expected and the school has to absorb some of those costs, then we don't have the flexibility to juggle money around the way we need to. So I think it's a slippery slope to say we're going to have this percentage of new revenue go to the town and this percentage go to the school. I think it needs to be more of a collaborative process, like you said, year to year, because we just can't predict, what the needs will be all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Now, April Rossi.
Okay. Can you just repeat the questions again, just so that
Absolutely.
again, I don't want to repeat all of the positives that everybody has agreed upon, and I just want to make sure that if there is a way that the question can be directed, that I'm doing it appropriately.
Okay, you have two questions. One of them is, what is your evaluation of the Wareham Public Schools? And the second question is, how do you feel about a shared budget revenue for the town?
Okay, thank you. So as a parent of a Wareham Public Schools student, I see what my son has been able to accomplish. So firsthand, as a parent, I've seen that my son has done well. He's had a lot of opportunities with his classes. He's had a lot of caring and engaging teachers. He's been able to take part in a lot of amazing extracurriculars. He's been able to take part in external programs like the Global Ed program. He was an exchange student in Beijing when he was in the 7th grade. There are a lot of things that he has been able to do. So as a parent, I applaud the dedication of the teachers who offer these programs after school, who are doing things because they care about our students. As a substitute teacher, I've taught as a paraprofessional in our TLC, which is our therapeutic learning centers, and our ASD classrooms. So I do see that there is some room for improvement in the special needs of our schools, in the ability to have the full-time paraprofessionals and have the student-to-teacher ratio that it should be all the time. Having had to be a sub, that means that they need extra bodies, they need extra people. And there are some that are assigned to those classrooms who are amazing. They're all wonderful, dedicated. But there's also a gap. There's a lot of restraint training that needs to be happening. There are, teachers that have gone out injured because they have been assaulted by students, and not because the students are doing things on purpose. Sometimes it's they have no control, and that's something that we need to look into, is to make sure that we have the staff adequately across the board covering everything that they need for those students. So if there is a need for a student to have to be restrained because of their disability or wherever they lie, or their, any sort of mood affective disorders or anything like that, and you have one teacher who happens to be there that day who's at the other side of the building, you need to make sure that in all of those classes, that all of those teachers have that access and have that availability. So there is, I think, opportunity to make sure that everything is level, to make sure that discipline is consistent, and that, that there is an at-home and parental accountability for all of the students. The teachers can only do so much, and I feel that one of the biggest opportunities is engaging the rest of the community and the families of these students, of all students, whether they are, excelling and taking part in a lot of programs as my own child, or if they're not, if they need the late buses. I believe that bringing those back, I know that we have them, I believe, limited availability back as of this term, but that's hindering a lot of kids who may need special help after school or extra help, and they can't usually stay for that because they have no other means to get home than their regular bus. So they're missing out on opportunities to succeed because they're not able to get the help that they need. I think that is something, again, we do have a lot of great opportunities. There are a lot of great things that we have going for us, especially in the lower with the literacy programs and the upper with the IB. But we're still losing a lot of kids to very similar districts, and there shouldn't be any reason for that. If we're succeeding as much as we say we are, why are people leaving? And I think we really need to question why that's happening, because they're going to Bourne, they're going to Carver, they're going to ORR, they're not going to vocational schools, they're not going to charter schools necessarily. The higher percentages are going to schools that should mirror our curriculum and our demographic, and they're not. So I think that there is definitely opportunity, and I think that as with the budget sharing, I do agree with a majority of the panel that it should be something that is looked at as an as-needed basis. If it is a year, like say this year with the roof at the school, we needed to, make sure that structurally that school is going to be a safe place for our students. So that was obviously an expense that was completely unexpected. But I also know that our police station is understaffed. I know that our fire station needs updated equipment also in order to keep our community safe. So I do feel that that is something that needs to be addressed as an as-needed basis based on where the town's needs are at that time. It needs to be a more fluid balance as opposed to a set structure for income, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You're left with 30 seconds.
I'm good.
You're good. Yes, Jeff.
Is it possible to make 2 quick points?
Now, Jeff, then I'll have to give 2 quick points to everybody. All right. Steve, what are the rules?
Oh, you decide.
Jeff, you can make 2 quick points.
Everybody else gets to make 2 quick points.
Okay. I can help you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to student voice, it's not an accident that there's more student voice. One of the themes of the International Baccalaureate program is, in fact, student voice, and the International Baccalaureate program is being extended down into the middle school. So that's exactly why there's more student voice now in our schools than ever before. The second point is the vocational program. You will be very happy to know that the percentage of kids applying to Upper Cape has dropped significantly for next year. That is good news for our high school. And to Mary's point, and perhaps others, the kids applying to go to the Upper Cape school are exactly the kids you would want to be going to the Upper Cape school, who in the past perhaps were denied admission. So I think the trend with respect to losing kids, or where kids are going to Upper Cape and whether that is the best choice for them, is a very positive one for Wareham.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to make 2 quick points?
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to piggyback on what, I'm drawing a blank. April, sorry.
I'm like, which one are you looking at?
I know, I'm like, that's awful, I apologize. About the people that are leaving the district, I think it is really important to figure out why they are leaving the district. And I had thought that there was a survey that went out, but people that I've talked to who have taken their children out of the district have said that there hasn't been any survey. And I'd like to see that come back and try to figure out why people are leaving and see what we can do to improve things to get them back or to prevent them from leaving as well.
Thank you very much.
I'm good. In regards to the survey, I actually created my own survey on my my candidate Facebook page, and about 60 people who had left the district had responded to the survey, and when asked if there was any form of communication from the district that was sent to them asking after they school choiced what their reason was, whether it was an email, a phone call, a snail mail, if you were, and of those 60 people that participated in that poll, 57 of them had no communication from the district asking them why they left. 3 of them responded that they received a question. So, I mean, that's a snapshot. That's about a 5% snapshot of the district and of the numbers that are leaving. And when it comes down to, as Jeff had mentioned, Upper Cape and the people that are attending or the admissions or applications to Upper Cape, I'm curious, is that the actual number of applications and children that have interviewed for Upper Cape or those that were accepted? I would like to know, the difference, because there are a lot of kids I know that have, my son is in 8th grade, he's going to high school next year, and there were several children I knew that, had really wanted to go to Upper Cape for the vocation and were denied, were not admitted. So it may necessarily not be that, if the numbers are lower, it may not necessarily be that they didn't apply. It could be that they just didn't get in. Their criteria has risen greatly, and a lot of students who would have generally benefited from a vocational school because they need that kind of alternative learning. They need that alternate week where they're doing a shop and they're doing things more hands-on as opposed to just an everyday sitting in a classroom at the high school for 82 minutes a period. May need that break, that structure, and they're losing out because they're not getting in. On a counterpoint to the IB program, we lose some students to charter schools. I know that they're not Jeff's favorite, but it's a reality. We live near Sturgis Charter School. We live near Rising Tide and then the new MAP Academy, and what Sturgis offers is what they call it's an IB for all. So every student enrolled in that school gets automatically enrolled in that IB program. So they get to choose their perspective. They get to do more writing-based or, self-research materials and apply that to whatever that subject matter is, whether or not that is relatable to all of our students, but it's offered to all of them. I'm glad to hear that it is trickling down to the middle school, but when you have a school that's offering IB in our area that's rated one of the #1 schools in the state, and we have a program very similar, but only about 40% of our student population is utilizing that program, why wouldn't we be able to figure out a way to roll that out to encompass all of our students and see if that helps our growth and our standing in the town? We were a level 1 high school very recently, and we are no longer. I know that we're making strides to get back up where we were, but that's quite a dip. And if there's a way that we can get that back and have accesses to different and alternate programming that we already have implemented for a percentage of our students, it might be a good possibility to look into rolling that out for more.
All right, thank you very much to all of you. That wraps up this round. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can all go back to your seats now. Yeah. And now I would like to welcome the town clerk candidate to come and join me up here. Okay. So we have, and I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher your last name, Bissonnette? Okay, all right, fantastic. We have Gina Dean and Michelle Bissonnette, who are both running for town clerk. So we are going to start with the 3 general questions. That is, tell us a little bit about yourself, why are you running, and what change are you planning to implement if elected? You may start, Dina.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name's
have right next to you.
Right
Yep.
in front of me. Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name's Jenna Dean. I am running for town clerk as a write-in candidate, and I've brought some little cheat sheets here with me. This is my first time on live TV, and so it's my vision and mission as town clerk to basically provide the highest level of service that I can. I'm a very helpful individual. It's in my nature to be kind to everybody, to help everybody, and I feel like the town clerk's office is the hub of the town. Everybody comes to us for questions. They're looking for guidance. They need assistance with all kinds of different things, and I feel like if you have somebody in that position that is helpful and that is going out of their way to take that extra step to please and to assist the residents, that's noticeable. Over the course of me working in the clerk's office, I worked there for about 3 years, and I've met a lot of really great people, residents, members of the different boards and committees, all kinds of different people, and the outpouring of support that I've received to run for town clerk has been extremely eye-opening. It's very scary. It's a huge, you're putting yourself out there, and I've never put myself out there like this before, which is, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I do feel like I have a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of experience. I've been very blessed and lucky to have the ability to train under somebody that's been our current town clerk for 20 plus years. She's taught me so much. The list could go on, but the day-to-day operations, I've worked with her on town meetings, town elections, basically, you name it, I've done it in that office and then some. I've recently transitioned down to the Inspectional Services Department. Again, with my helpful nature, the reason for that transition was I knew that they needed assistance down there. I'm always looking to learn new things, a go-getter. I just want to help, and they needed my help, so I transitioned downstairs. I knew that that would not affect my ability to run for town clerk, so it was kind of, I was able to help in two different ways, still put in to run as a writing candidate and still, assist in other departments. I'm 32 years old. I've been a resident of Wareham since about the 4th grade. I've graduated from Wareham. I just was recently married. We're going on a year in May, which is great. I have a 13-year-old son who attends the Wareham Middle School. I'm a notary public. I also went and I'm a justice of the peace. I did that on my own. I did that something I just wanted to get under my belt. It seemed like a great opportunity. It seemed like a way to assist other people in the community if they ever needed me for anything, so I took that upon myself to go ahead and do. I hold myself accountable for everything. I feel that that's very important. When I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. My commitments and my responsibilities to the residents, it means a lot. I feel like if you don't hold up to what you're going to say, then people lose their faith in you, and that just trickles down the hill. I'm a provider of efficient and high-quality service, which I feel has resulted in a lot of confidence and support from the public. I don't think that I would be here tonight if it wasn't for everybody in the community backing me. When I was up in the air about submitting my nomination papers, the reason that I didn't turn them in was feeling conflicted between work life and family life. And after talking to a lot of people, it finally dawned on me, Jenna, you can have both. You can have a successful career and have your family. So after a lot of talks and all the support, here I am tonight running and putting myself out there. There are a lot of values in the town clerk's office that are super important. I feel our record keeping is very important. Nowadays, everybody's interested in genealogy and ancestry. Our books in the office I find to be super interesting. The history of the town I love. I think that it's really important that we preserve those books, that we get things implemented and work with different committees, such as community preservation, to work on getting grants. That was something that I did when I was in the office just because I was curious. I wanted to know how much it was going to cost us to preserve these books that are hundreds of years old, that people are going to look in 100 years from now. I would hope that my grandkids come back and research us, and I think that it's really important that we preserve all of that information. I think that having a wide variety, a wide knowledge in all areas of the community and town hall and how it's run has really helped me develop who I am today and bring me to why I want to be town clerk. I feel what makes an effective town clerk is providing the guidance and the support to the community and the residents. Like I was saying earlier, we're the hub, and I just have a great passion to help and assist in any way I can. I feel like if I don't run, everything that I've learned and gained being in the town clerk's office would just fall to the wayside. And I think
got
that
30 seconds.
It's really silly. I have a lot to bring to the table. I have I can't let all this knowledge go to waste. I have to serve my community, and I feel like if I don't run, that I would be letting a lot of people down, and that's just not in my nature, so here I am.
How about, what are your goals if elected?
So my goals, if I'm elected, is to honestly continuing the great job that the current town clerk has done. I really don't think that there are a lot of things that need to change. She's done a tremendous job keeping that office going, keeping things current, up to date, bringing in new things to implement, such as the poll pads. That's huge for us. It helps out not only the residents, but the people that are working at the polling location. So there really isn't anything that I would like to change. I would like to just continue to move forward, explore, different things that come to light, that we can utilize, different options to keep us going in the, as the generational changes
Thank you.
Occurring.
Thank you very much. All right. Now moving on. Same questions to you too. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you running, and what are your goals, if any, when elected, if elected?
Thank you, Queen. Hi, my name's Michelle Bissonette. I live over at 150 Queen Drive in West Wareham. I have been living there for 3 years. I recently got divorced 5 years ago. I had to restart my whole life, and I decided out of 351 communities that I would make Wareham my last stop. I have always loved Wareham. I love Lindsay's, and they have the best corn chowder ever. And I just wanted to be here. I have 18 years experience in doing municipalities. I was in the town clerk's office in Mattapoisett, and then I was in Marshfield in the assessor's office for a little bit, helping them out, and then recently I'm in Marion now. I was the assistant town clerk there, pretty much a one-woman show. I pretty much ran the office, and I learned a lot, and I learned it from the step down. Deborah Blanchett, who was the town clerk, treasurer, collector, she had left, and it was decided at town meeting that they would split up the treasurer collector and make it an appointed position, and the town clerk would be an elected position. I was then made the assistant town clerk, at which point I had to separate both offices. I have had my hands on every part of the town clerk's office, from doing deeds for cemeteries to births, deaths, marriages on the state system, doing all the work for the elections on the VRIS system. I've had dealings with Michelle Tassinari over in Boston with the elections division, and it's just I know the job inside and out, and I believe that I could really do a good job for Wareham. The things that I would change, not too much. I mean, the only thing I would like to implement was, I've always had a dream. I used to be a paraprofessional special needs teacher, and I would really just like to, one, have the kids pick out the dog tags. I think that would be awesome. So they would run, with our help, a little election, pick out the dog tag, and the next year their decision would make a difference, and they would actually see how the system works. The second thing I'd like to do maybe is during the bigger elections is have the high school students come in and help with those to see. I mean, elections can be awfully, awfully exciting, and they can be boring, and it gets tedious. But I want them to see the process too, and it's important for the young people to be able to see that process. Thank you.
All right, thank you to you both. So now we're gonna go to our 2 questions, and we can start. Yeah, all right. And so the first question is, what experience do you have running the election process? And the second question is, what is your evaluation of how we run our elections? Does the system need to be improved? Yeah. Those are the 2 questions.
So my experience is, as far as running the elections and being involved in the elections, was preparing for the elections. As far as testing all of the voting machines, as Michelle said, you have to get involved and get in touch with the state. So I was able to assist Marianne in testing the machines, preparing everything, going to the precincts. When machines went down, I've learned how to fix the machines when they've been in error. I've learned everything as far as voter registration, preparing the ballots, how to set up ballots, getting the ballots out, deadlines on what you need to file, when warrants need to go out, when things need to be posted, who you need to notify, notifying newspapers, getting the information out there properly and correctly and on time. Getting the information to the precincts, making sure that our poll workers have everything that they need to be successful. I think that's a really big thing, that if you don't provide everything with everybody with what they need, how can they be successful? The training, I feel that keeping up on the trainings when new laws are implemented, that's super important to keep everybody on the same page so we're all doing the same thing. And the second part of what I would I really don't see that there is anything to change. Why fix something that isn't broken? I think that the town clerk's office operates very well. It's a really well-oiled machine, and I don't really see anything to change. I feel like changes will come as the times come, and I think that we have to adjust to that and adapt to that, given what our capabilities and our resources. So.
Thank you very much, Gina. Okay, Michelle, same questions.
What she said. No, it is what she said, okay? There's a lot to it. You have to prepare the in and out books of all the voters. Way before that time, you have to go onto the system and you have to register the voters. There's also the RMV that goes through the state system now. You got to make sure all those people are, you know, within time and stuff. So there is. It's a very long process, and it's all year long, and you have to keep up with it. Very important. The thing that I would change is, like I said, it runs well, you know. The only thing I would change is getting younger people involved. Still have our regular poll workers and stuff, but have those younger people shadow them and maybe have them come in more and be more involved with the whole process. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Those were my two questions. Does anybody else have a point that they would like to add? Okay, Jeff, you have a question to ask. Okay.
Thank you. In the 2016 election, there were quite a few assertions that voter fraud was a serious issue across the country. Based on your experience, do you agree or disagree that voter fraud is a major problem?
Do you mind? Go ahead.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Yes, I can tell you from my own personal experience that I knew somebody who was living in Medway, and they moved down to Virginia. And this person was getting absentee ballots in Medway all the time. When they moved down to Virginia, they continued to get their Medway, and they voted in Virginia, because the states don't talk to each other. If you go to Lowe's and you buy a nail, California's gonna know it, the East Coast is gonna know it, everybody's gonna know it. But we don't have a system like that for our voter registration because it costs too much money. So there is that, and I know it firsthand. I'm sure, you know, Wareham, you try to stop that from happening, but you can't catch them all. You take people on their word a lot of the times. But it is a problem, and I agree with that. Yes.
To touch on that, just based off of me being in the clerk's office, the 3 years that I was there, I never experienced anybody ever complaining that there was any fraud going on. I never had any issues with that. It was never something that was discussed in the office. Nobody ever came to our window questioning anything. I know there's always thoughts that there's an underlying thing and that people are always a little iffy that something is going on, but I know Michelle said that the states aren't connected, but all the towns are connected. So if you're registered in Wareham and you try to register in another town in Massachusetts, we are going to pick you up on that, and we're not going to let you register in two communities. So that's really all I have to say, is I've never really experienced any of the voter fraud, but I know that, you know, if there was ever an issue, you get on the phone with the state and you work it out. Where there's a will, there's a way. You work it out.
Thank you. Anybody else who has some questions? All right, you're free to go. Thank you. All right, let's invite the queen of the party, Claire Smith. Where's the red card? It's tough times for everybody, you know. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we are going to give you, congratulations. The three questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you running? And what are your goals moving forward?
Thank you. For those who don't know me, my name is Claire Smith. I've been town moderator for 9 years. I really struggled with the decision of whether to run for another term. And it was a very difficult decision for me because we do have a deputy moderator, and I felt, you know, I maybe should step aside and let him have his turn at it. And then I started thinking about one of the things that I really wanted to implement, and that's electronic voting. And I really want to see it through. So that was my motivation to go for one more term. I have another project that I would like to do with the high school students. There is a curriculum where they can set up their own town meeting and have a mock town meeting within the high school. So that was another thing that has come up over the last couple of years that I thought I really would like to give that a shot and try that, because I think it's important to motivate the younger generation to understand that the importance of voting. I have lived in Wareham for 65 years. I grew up in a home where community service was important. My father was involved, my brothers were involved, and that was just our nature, that if we saw something that needed to be done, we needed to do it. If I were to sit here and tell you all the groups that I belong to, I would take my whole 5 minutes. So what I would like to share, I think, is a side of me that people have not had the opportunity to know. I have sat on the Mass Moderator Association Board of Directors for 2 terms. I was asked to serve as their president last year. I declined because I did not think I was going to run again, and I didn't think it was fair for me to accept that and then not be able to finish out a 3-year term with them. The Mass Moderators Association is a real tool for moderators to learn what's going on in other communities and how to bring back things that can improve your own town meeting. The year before last, I was asked to serve on a panel of 3 to teach new moderators what town meeting is about and all of the things that they need to understand to run their own town meeting for the first time. And it was broken up into 3 parts. The first panel member talked about preparation. I got to talk about everything they needed to know about town meeting. So it was an incredibly overpowering, to me, responsibility to bring that to new moderators and to explain to them what town meeting is about and what the rules and procedures are and things that you have to know. The third panelist talked about the after town meeting, and I think that's something that people don't see, that there are things that have to be accomplished after town meeting to finish out everything that happens at town meeting. Last year, I was asked to sit on a panel for the seasoned moderators, and to me, that was overwhelming because most of them are attorneys, most of them have 10 or 15, 20 years experience, and I thought, what do I know? And you want me to talk to them. My subject was petition articles. And so to have to explain petition articles and the legal ramifications, I really had to do a lot of homework, and I really had to understand. I also have been host to the Southeast Mass Moderators meetings for the last 7 years. When I host a meeting, I bring in public speakers to help us better understand different aspects of articles that will come before town meeting. I have had 2 of the attorney generals come to a meeting to talk about bylaws, what they look for once a bylaw or zoning bylaw or any bylaws pass town meeting. I have had Kathleen Caleri from Municipal Finance, so that when we talk about the budget or we talk about money articles, what we as moderators need to know what is within scope or what is not within scope. I have had David Giannotti from the State Ethics Commission. Now, who would think moderators would have ethical issues? And there are things that come up that moderators have to be concerned about. So that's a side I think people don't know, that as part of this job, it comes with the territory. And so the one thing that I have seen by going to other town meetings, and the reason for me running, is to implement electronic voting. I really feel that we've lost people coming to town meeting, and I think it's because they're intimidated by having their neighbor watch how they vote. And electronic voting is going to solve that issue. So we're now working in the past couple of weeks to send out to some various businesses that do electronic voting to get some quotes. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that at the fall town meeting, we will be having electronic voting so that the voters can try it, you can see what it's about. And I think it's going to make a big difference in the future of people coming to town meeting and voting on important issues without feeling intimidated or feeling that somebody's watching, especially business people who may feel that there's a repercussion if they vote a certain way, or someone who decides they don't want to vote for a police cruiser, or somebody that doesn't want to vote for the school budget. So I have a couple of goals I'd like to see through. So I'm here for another term, and then I think that will be it.
Thank you very much. And I have 2 questions for you, and which one of them you have answered. That was, what's your take on electronic voting? But you can add more to it if you feel like it. So the first question is, how do you feel you can improve town meeting?
There's always room for improvement. And one of the things I also do is I go out and I visit other town meetings. I watch to see what things that they are using, different techniques. One of the things that we implemented a few years ago was the consent agenda, and that was something that I learned from one of the other towns. There's always different things. Different moderators have a different way of moderating. Every single town meeting in every other town is different. There are no 2 towns who are alike. So when you go out and you visit other town meetings, you can pick up things that make things work. And I think I've brought some things back. My first town meeting 9 years ago, we went 6 nights. We're down to 1 or 2. So I think that we've brought some things back. Preparation with the selectmen, town council, we've improved that we come in and we make sure we're better prepared coming into town meeting, that we have the information that's available. Those are the kinds of things that make town meeting run smoother. So those are the kinds of things I like to talk to our selectmen about, working with the town clerk. Let's try this and see if it will work. And I think it has, because we've gone from 6 nights down to 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the other question was your feelings on electronic voting. I know you already
I am sold on electronic voting. Town of Wayland has used it probably for about 9 or 10 years. They have a very sophisticated system. It's built into their auditorium. The problem with, and I know I hear people, why can't we vote from home? You can't vote from home because there's no security to that. In Wayland, they have their security built into the room. There's no way that anybody can access or interrupt the vote or vote and take your vote. And there are different kinds of technology that are in play. It's just having a remote. You have a button, just like your TV, where you can press 1 for yes, 2 for no. And there are different companies that have different technology, and that's what we're exploring now. And so what would happen is the moderator, we would have our normal conversations of people explaining the article, and then once everyone had the opportunity to talk to it, I would call for the vote. Then the computer would take over and activate the handsets, and then you can press either 1 for yes or 2 for no. And then you have 30 seconds, because some people say, well, I'm not really sure I wanted to vote that way. So there's 30 seconds to change your vote. I think it will make a big improvement in town meeting in terms of bringing people in to come to town meeting. I'll tell you a funny story, and my husband will back me up. We left town meeting many years ago, and we would sit together, and someone said, do you talk on the way home? And I kind of said, well, yeah. And they said, well, we sat behind you to see how you vote because we don't know some of these things. And unfortunately, you vote yes and your husband votes no. So we don't know what to do. So people do watch. And I think by having electronic voting, and we've been married over 50 years, so we do talk on the way home. But, yeah, not much. And sometimes not for a couple days. But, but I think electronic voting is the wave of the future. And that's something I really want to see happen in Wareham.
All right, thank you very much. And we have a question. I'll come to you.
feel that attendance at town meetings may not always be a vast representation of the entire demographic of the town. And it's a lot of the times, it's with a lot of organizations in town, it's the same people that are involved that are coming out to everything. What do you think would be something that you can implement to interest the next generation of people to attend town meeting or to understand the importance of showing up to vote, and that's the governing body of the town and the decisions?
I think this curriculum that's available for high school students, which is something that I would like to see happen in the next couple of years, I think by letting the students get involved in what town meeting is about and learning about town meeting and coming up with one warrant article or two warrant articles that they can implement in the school, it will give them a role in the process. We also have, and I don't know if you've seen them at town meeting, but we do have the government class that comes to town meeting. And so I think trying to get the students involved. I've been attending town meeting for more years than I care to admit publicly here, and I can tell you after. And having specialized groups come is something that has gone on for decades. It depends on what the issue is. You know, people have an interest, and they're going to come and support that interest. Other than that, they're out with their children at different games. You know, I can remember we used to pay a babysitter 5 nights a week from 7 to 11 p.m. to go to town meeting. That doesn't happen anymore. People are so busy with their lives. There's other things going on the same night of town meeting, and you have to pick priorities. And unless there's something that they really have a vested interest in, they're not going to come. So I don't think you're going to change that dramatically unless you can motivate people to let them see the importance of what their vote means.
And we have another question.
We have the same attorney for our legislative body as we do for our executive body. The executive body, the corporation, is the Board of Selectmen, and the legislative body is the town meeting. I'm sure you would agree that if the Congress of the United States used the White House's attorney, that wouldn't work very well. So why do we not have our own attorney for the legislative body?
I can't answer that, Jeff, other than to say to you the cost of having, you know, the town has an attorney that they pay to take care of the business of the town. I will say he is a moderator in another town, so he does understand all the aspects of town meeting, but I would venture to guess it's because of the cost. I mean, to have an attorney there solely for town meeting, you're looking at hundreds of dollars per hour. So, you know, you have somebody who's on salary, why not have them, you know, there?
We have another question.
It's almost more of an answer to what Jeff was saying. The selectmen do hire town council, but the important words in that are town council. He represents the entire town. The selectmen, by virtue of the work we do, the decisions we make that impact other people's rights, some of the disciplinary things we have to do, even including dog hearings, necessitate that we probably use town council more than, for example, the legislative branch. But when town council is sitting there during town meeting, you'll notice that he is talking mostly to the town moderator and not to the selectmen. And that's because, once again, he's town council.
Okay, I'm gonna go to, we opened the can. You had to add that, huh? You started it. I'll be back. Okay.
Just a quick question. I know that some towns have town meeting on Saturdays. Was that ever considered? And if it was, why did we not go with having town meeting on Saturdays?
We've talked about many different things, you know, having town meeting on Saturday. I think, I mean, there are some towns that will have it on a whole day during the week. It just has been tradition that we've done it during the week. If people felt that they would like to try a Saturday, I am more than willing. I think, though, you know, you get into the sports season in October, you have your football games on a Saturday. So there are other things that come into play with trying to change that. But I am open to any suggestions if people, you know, a group of people want to try and we have a consensus that it's something worthwhile trying. I'm willing to try anything to motivate people to come to town meeting.
No, will you?
Selectman Titlebaum would be interested to know that his own attorney would disagree with him.
Oh, that's it? All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right. Do we have a housing authority? Okay. Do we have the sewer commissioner? Nothing? Good. Nice. Good. Oh, fantastic, fantastic.
And Housing Authority, Jody Santagate had to work, so she was unable to get off to be here tonight, but she was looking forward to attending.
Okay. All right. Well, they can come to me. They can have their 5 minutes of fame. Good morning, Wareham.
I will let her know.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Great show.
9 a.m. live. 6 p.m. recording. Okay, the selectmen, please. Oh, staying on the schedule. We'll be out of here at 9, Steve. Okay. So we have Selectmen Patrick Tropiano and Jim Menis. Okay, I'm going to start with 3 questions. That is, tell us about yourself, why are you running, and what are your goals if elected? Yeah, you may go first.
Okay. My name's Patrick Tropiano. I've been a selectman for the past 6 years. I've served on the Finance Committee for 6 years, 4 years as chair. I've served on the School Building Committee for the middle school, the Sewer Upgrade Committee, and various other boards over the years. I do this because I love it and because I am so proud to have your votes and to go there and be able to get some things accomplished for this town. And I think we've done a pretty good job. I think I've done a pretty good job as selectman. I want to continue to do that. A matter of fact, today we found out that our bond rating went from AA3 to AA+. Now that doesn't mean we have money for everything, but it does mean if you look at our books, they're looking pretty good. In other words, you'd say, geez, this is a pretty solvent place. There isn't enough money to go around, but at least we're solvent with where we are. And I'm pretty proud of that. I'm proud of all the people that this town put together, and as Derek Sullivan put together, to make that happen. Because when I first came, things were not that way. The reports weren't that good, and I think we've worked hard. The Board of Selectmen has worked really hard to lead us in that direction and try to get those things accomplished, and I'm really proud of that. I'm not one to talk a lot about myself anymore. Years ago, probably would, but nowadays I don't talk much. I'd like to see questions and other kinds of questions from people in the audience, and I think I'd like to leave that at that point. As far as my goals go, I'd like to see the town keep moving forward in the direction that it's going, keeping things together, and try to keep the revenue coming in. Now, we've done a very good job at this. I don't know if you've known it, but we have a lot of new things that came to town, which we were very successful in bringing to town, which helped the revenue, which, by the way, the predictions were that by the time 2019 came, that we would be bankrupt. As you can see, that didn't happen. We've done a very nice job of diversifying income and treating us more like a business and paying attention to all that stuff. We have to thank Derek. I'll tell you, your town administrator is terrific at what he does. He's a terrific finance guy. But, you know, he hears it from all of us all the time, and I think that's awesome. And I'd like to keep that going. I'd also like to think that we can maybe put together our heads with the school committee, because I know the school committee's big problem is a big $3 million number. It's like the elephant in the room that nobody ever wants to talk about. But it's the school choice money that the school pays back to the state for people who go out of district. It's a huge chunk of money that the school doesn't have to use. And we all have to try to figure out, we all got to try to help the school committee people, and whatever it takes to try to figure out why that's happening and how we can reverse that trend. Because that's not only good for the school, it's good for the town as a whole. And I think we need to move in that direction. Everybody needs to work together. I think I've tried to do that. I think I've tried to make it so that I make decisions based on what people say. And by the way, I'm not a political guy. I never make a decision based on politics or a group or anybody else. I always try to look at it as what's best for this community. And I've always tried to do that, and I hope to keep trying to do that and to try to keep your votes and keep your respect and keep things moving forward. What was the last one?
Oh, those were all the questions.
They
What are
were?
your goals? If you
Awesome. Then let's get on.
Thank you very much.
Here you go, Jim.
Yeah, in 4 minutes. Very good. Okay.
You wanted to know who, why, and goals?
Yes,
Were those the
tell us a
questions
little
there?
bit about yourself. Why are you
Yeah.
running, and what are your goals if elected?
My name's Jim Manise, and I've lived in town for 38 years. Worked at Bridgewater State University for about 40 years. Retired 3 years ago at 61 years old. I was a mid-level administrator. I was involved in 3 unions, head of 3 unions there for 20 out of 40 years. Had a lot of responsibility and goal, responsibilities similar to what the selectmen do, sitting on boards, making decisions, statewide executive boards, negotiations, arbitrations. Attended a lot of seminars on how to improve communications within your locals and statewide. Let's see, what else do I have here? I went to Bridgewater State University while I worked there. I got my degree, my bachelor's degree. I've got 20-some-odd credits of graduate work also. And worked with budgets, procurement. I worked on grants as a technical assistant in 3 academic departments, which would be physics, geology, and geography. I also worked in the grounds crew the first 10 years there. I think I'm pretty diversified, my background. And I was the head of the Wareham Land Trust, as president of Wareham Land Trust for 4 or 5 years. I was on the board of directors, I think, for 6 or 7. I stepped down from that in 2008. So that's about me. What I'd like to see, that's the next question, I think, right?
Why are you running?
Oh, why am I running?
Yes.
Well, I have gone to town meeting. I've applied to be on some committees, and sometimes I didn't feel that I was getting listened to, and I think at times some of the citizens of the towns aren't getting listened to. I would like to be that representative. There's a lot of people, as you said, don't go to town meeting, and why? I can't answer why, but they have opinions, and I think I'm an approachable person. I talk to a lot of people about it. It's not I or me, it's we. And what we can do together, what are our goals? What would we like to see? I think we have some issue on infrastructure. 35 years is down to Swifts Beach. Some of the drains are collapsing down there, have been for years. Those things need to be taken care of. And it's not like a year ago or 2 years ago, or it's like years. And, those are important things, infrastructure. Some of the old buildings that we have received been given back to from the school department are deteriorating, and the roofs need to be replaced, and fascia. So if we don't take care of those things, it's just going to lead to more costs and to repair them, or there's a lot of reasons.
Does that fall under your goals if elected?
Well, I have goals too. Transfer station, regional refuse district. Contract ends in 2020. Landfill's capped in 2021. I'd like to be active on that and see what we can do to keep transfer station and lower costs for refuse removal for the residents who choose to do that. I'd like to see more transparency and a one-stop shop when you go to the town hall website on the calendar, as I was explaining earlier. Where when you go to the calendar, town calendar, and you click on the day, you see what meetings are there. All meetings that are posted on the bulletin board should be posted on the calendar. When you click on it, the time and the date should come up, but also the agenda. So if you want to know what the agenda is, you click on it. You don't have to go through 2 or 3 levels of menus in order to find all the different committee websites in order to find those. And so as soon as they post it, it's posted on the bulletin boards. It should be posted on the website, all meetings. One-stop shop. There's a lot of things that need to be done. I think I bring a different perspective because I'm a different person. I haven't been involved directly with it, but I've gone to town meetings, and I go to a lot of board meetings, especially the last 6 months, as I was kind of getting prepared to come here, and seeing how they all work together, how they work as a group, how they interact with the governing body. Just a lot of stuff going on.
Thank you very much to both of you. And now we're moving on to our 2 questions. Jim, you can start. What do you think are the biggest needs in this town? What are our biggest needs? That's question number 1. And question number 2 is, in terms of recreational marijuana that's sweeping the whole nation, are we in this community expecting that recreational marijuana to be our golden goose, to bail us out?
Okay. Our biggest needs. We have a shortage of senior affordable housing. We have on a waiting list of 700 to 750 seniors looking for some assisted housing. We haven't really done anything to reach those goals. We also had the 43B issue of affordable housing, which can get basically pushed on you if you don't do something otherwise. I think it's 0.5%, you get a year off, or towards your goal, or 1%. And so we could meet an end result of helping our seniors out, who, they're the reasons we're here, all of us. And at the same time, push off a 40B, which is not a friendly type of development. Dakota Partners has pushed, the last group to do a proposal, and the town turned around and sued the zoning board and Dakota Partners. That might be coming to a completion, so that'll be coming in. But we still need to address our need of senior affordable housing and move forward on that. Growth and development's an issue. How, what, where. What do we have, like 5 minutes?
We have 5 minutes, and you have 3 minutes left.
Okay, thank you.
3.5.
Thanks. Like I said, growth and development, or what, where, what types of development. We've had a lot of retail. We've had a lot of fast food. They're jobs. relatively low-paying jobs. I'd like to see and work towards having better-paying jobs, technology and otherwise coming into town. How do we do that? How do we get there? It's a we thing. Networking. I think networking is important. I think we have some people do a great job in moving forward, but I think we have to have the direction to say this is what we'd like to do. And the marijuana question too, right?
Yes.
Okay. We voted for it, but on the state, we voted for it in the town, it was a reality. We've adopted it. Some people aren't happy about it, but you know, you either kick and scream, or you can get on the train and take the ride. So the town's decided to do that, which I think in the long run is probably a good idea. It's just not the sale of recreational marijuana. There's industry that spins off of that. There's processing, there's manufacturing, there's growing. They're jobs, they're decent paying jobs. I don't think they pay a little better than retail and fast foods anyhow. Big shot in the arm tax-wise to start. You get 3% plus another 3% impact fee. The impact fee sunsets after a number of years. It'd be nice if we could somehow recover that, at least try to legislatively. It's just people pay for it through the purchasing, procurement. And right now we get a big pop in the tax. Right? You get a big income increase. Like I like to explain it like it's a dropping ball. You drop the ball. First you get a good bounce, then you get a smaller bounce, and a smaller bounce. So the more companies that come on board in the other towns that come in, they're going to start nibbling at what you have, so that, at first we get a good income, then it's going to be less and less, and it's going to flatten out. And I think Mr. Sullivan has a pretty good idea right now, is to put, I think 25% of it into a fund for improvement and maybe a police station, and not put it all into the general fund, because we can't get used to expending this larger amount of money, because eventually it's just going to flatten out, and that's what we're working with. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Oh boy.
Mr. Trump, would you like me to repeat the questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. Question is, what do you see as our biggest needs in this town? And question number 2 is, are we expecting, or are we treating recreational marijuana as our golden goose?
Right. All right, so our needs. Wow. That's a real question, because our needs are huge. I said that we had a good financial base, and if you looked at our financial statement, you'd say, well, this business is solvent. But our senior center needs more money. Our schools need more money. Our municipal maintenance went from 54 people once upon a time down to 9. We have, what else do we have? The police department needs more money. We talked about going to adding an extra sector to the police department back in 2000 when I was on the board before, and we haven't done it yet, and we need it. We had 8,000 calls in February. So we don't have the money. We have the needs. Needs I could talk to you about all day long. We really can. We can talk about needs. Priorities, everybody has different priorities, don't we? Everybody in this room, if I said, what should we spend the money on, everybody would have a different idea what we should spend the money on if we got money in. So it's a little difficult. It's a tough question to answer. You just kind of got to go along with it, and you got to try to work it out a little at a time as things go on. You got to keep trying to work at it. Okay? As far as the marijuana thing goes, well, so far the things that we've signed on for marijuana are creating about 246 jobs. Pretty good jobs too, by the way. Well more than what Walmart or any of those other places are paying, really living wages, good living wages. So they've played pretty well. Are they the end all to our problem? Absolutely not. It's just one other business. It's just like now we have liquor stores that pay money and so on, and we have industrial businesses that pay money. We have some more business paying money. It's not the end or even the life-saving force of the town. It is going to bring in some money, especially initially. We get a bunch of boost. And of course, everybody wants to spend it. I've talked to in the community recently, everybody I talked to, everybody wants to spend it on different things. I was talking to one person, they wanted to add money to the seniors. Some people wanted to add money to schools. Some people want to add money to this. They all want to add money. Well, there's only so much of it. And I believe that we need to use it wisely and not use it foolishly. And we can't use it as money that is reoccurring until we know it's reoccurring. You know what I'm saying? Because we often, once upon a time, used to get ourselves in trouble by using one-time money. You know, money comes in, and all of a sudden we use it, we feed it into the budget, and then the next year you don't have that money to put back into the budget, and then you either have to cut it, or you got to cut something else in order to fill it in. Okay? We can't have that happen. So Mr. Sullivan has done a good job so far of not adding money into the budget or bringing it into the budget until we know what it is, which I think is a good idea. Now, the school department deserves a chunk of that money, right? I believe in revenue sharing. I think the school department and the Board of Selectmen and the town should make a deal that it costs 50%, 53%, I don't know, whatever the number's gonna be, whatever the negotiation is, and they get that share of the money. It saves a lot of argument and a lot of hassle with people, and things get done. Now, that doesn't mean to say, you know, you gotta remember, with the school department, when their buildings need major repairs, that's a whole separate item. Right? So we take care of that separately. You know, not that we do a very good job, by the way. We do the best we can with the money we have, as everybody knows. We do the best we can with what we have. It's not the end all. It is a good thing to have. It's a good problem to have money coming in than to have no money coming in. I mean, we all know that just from our own budgets. It's kind of tough to pay the bills without any money. So yeah. I think it's not the end all, but we need to take it. If not, the next town over or a town away from that is going to take it. Somebody's going to take the money. It's here. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's use it. Let's try to get some of these done, things that we haven't done in a long time accomplished with whatever percentage of it we can use. I totally agree with putting some of it away as capital money. That's what we put it in, a capital account. Now, we know that the priority that we need right now is a police station so bad, it's crazy. There's no room in that place. They put prisoners in hallways. They really just don't have any room in that place. And we need to do something like that. Now, but that's not saying that that's where it's going to end, because you could move that capital money to other things too. I think it's very important that we do some of that and that we make that work and that we help the school department and the senior department. And by the way, we were able to come up with senior director money this year, and that's awesome. And we also have a bunch of things in the work I wish I had time to tell you.
Thank you.
And the library too as well, the library director as well. So
thank you very much to both of you. Now, if anybody else have questions? Jeff.
When I talk to legislators, they still cry about how much the state is spending on health care, but they also said they have closed the loophole on the hotel motel tax so that now Airbnb type rentals are included. They said that's going to be a tremendous amount of money for towns like Wareham. Have you looked at that, and starting 2021, how much that will be worth to Wareham?
You know, that's great, Jeff. I'm glad you said that, because when she mentioned the marijuana, and I say it's not the end, that there's other things too that are going on, and that's one of them. The B&Bs are going to be treated like hotels, basically. So there's a tax, and it's a pretty good tax, and the town gets a nice piece of the change. And yeah, it's going to be good money. We haven't come up with numbers yet. They're working on all that. They're trying to figure it out based on our rentals. We have a lot of rentals in this town, as you know, being a summer community. I am scared of a few things with this, and that is that it just hit me. I go to Martha's Vineyard every year, and I rent a place over there. okay? And I got the bill for the house, and it had the tax on it. And the tax was about $700. And so it put me out of budget. So now I had to go look for another place that was a little cheaper. So I couldn't afford it. And of course, rentals are a big thing for us, as you well know, big summer community. I mean, I forget what the numbers are, but we go from like 24,000 to 55,000 people or something here in the summertime. It's a lot. And it's fun that it's a lot. You know, we look forward for them to come because it helps feed our community and keep our community going. All you folks in Onset certainly know that. And it's kind of fun and it's a great time and you can't do any better. But yeah, and we're going to work on that and we'll come up with numbers. And I just want you to know that we will be, we're not hiding anything from anybody. Everybody will get to see it. Derek doesn't believe in hiding money, just so you know, it's not his way. You guys will get to know, the school department will get to know, everybody will get to know, and we'll get to figure out how we're gonna spend the money. And we'll do it as a town and as a group, and we'll figure it out. Okay? Thank you.
Interesting question, and I think it's applicable to people who rent their homes for a considerable period of time. So if I believe it is, if you rent your home for less than 14 days in a year, you wouldn't have to pay the tax. And I'm not sure exactly what the tax is. I believe the different companies that offer these services would collect the tax at time of payment and disperse it back to the towns. So until we really find out how many people have been using this, and I know a few people myself, there's really no way to tell. And not everybody uses an Airbnb. I mean, a lot of people just put an ad in the paper or it's word of mouth. So there'll be some money generated. How much? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows, like Patrick was saying. Once we find out, and again, you know, then we can decide how much we can put into the budget and what should we do with it. Does anybody want to pay more taxes? No. Are they paying a real estate tax already? Yes. Do hotels and motels already have to pay a surcharge or an additional tax for hospitality? Yes. So it's just kind of, I guess, leveling out the field for people who do it more than just on a short period of time basis. Thanks.
Do you feel that is a possibility that if it is through an Airbnb that people would be taxed, that there would be a percentage that would sort of start to rent under the table? And if that were the case and they weren't necessarily registered, how would you go about either trying to implement that tax or implement a fine if that's in violation of the new rental law?
You know, it might drive some people who are doing it through Airbnb and other companies that offer this service, but I think they do it for convenience and to reach a market. And the people who have done otherwise, you know, use newspapers or word of mouth or friends, I'm not sure if the real estate companies are going to have to do the collecting and the tax receipts too. I would, you know, who offer this service to people who own homes. I would assume they would. So, yeah, I mean, people might try to skirt around it. I mean, that's always going to happen. I mean, what do you want to do? You're going to have a hotel police force and chase them down, and, you know, if someone's abusive of it and the house is being rented all the time and the neighbors don't like it, then I guess they'd cause a commotion and call one of the town agencies, and someone would step in and investigate what was going on. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a great question because, there'll probably be some of that. The interesting thing is we've had a rental program for a bunch of years now, meaning that we go out and inspect every single rental, every single year. So they actually pay a fee, and we send a gentleman out there, and he inspects the rental to make sure that it's inhabitable, that it has all the stuff it should have, you know, all that kind of stuff. All the Chapter 2 stuff, it's run through the health department. And so they go out there and they check it all out. And so they know the rentals. So they know what they are, what the people are renting. We know who they are and we know what they're renting. And so it's a little harder for them to skirt around us as it is somebody else. So, but it'll happen. I mean, there'll be some of that. Hopefully people will be honest and it'll, and work it out. And, you know, once you get used to it, you know, it hit me hard this week, like I talked to you, and it says $700, kind of hit me kind of hard. You know, it was like, whoa, that's, you know, whatever. But, you know, the truth of the matter is that, you know, in a couple of years from now, I won't remember that. It'll just be part of what happens, and I'll pay it just like everybody else pays it, and it won't matter. You know what I mean? Remember, they're not paying the fee, so it's not like they have to pay it. It's the people that are coming in that pay it. And so those are the people I'm concerned about, in that some of them may not decide to rent at all. Maybe it puts them out of budget, but hopefully somebody else fills the void, you know? So, thank you.
Does anybody else have some questions? All right, thank you. Steve is going to close.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, you can take your seats. Now, stay right there. We're going to wrap it up right now. First of all, I'd like to thank all of our candidates for coming out tonight. That was very brave of you. And for you folks at home and those who couldn't be here tonight, pass the word along that what we taped tonight, or what we recorded tonight, we'll clean it up a little bit, and that'll be running between now and election time.